Welcome to First Unitarian Toronto Online, where we meet in a new way to seek, connect, and serve. We welcome you, whether you're joining us from around the corner or around the world, and whether you're joining us for the first time or have been a member of our community for many days now. As we begin, we acknowledge that in the city of Toronto, the land upon which we gather is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Wherever we are joining from today, may we recommit ourselves to the ongoing and essential work of reconciliation, educating ourselves in the Indigenous history of our land, this land, and working together to heal the many wounds inflicted by settler colonialism. I'm Reverend Lynn Harrison. I'm joined today by Director of Lifespan Religious Education, Angela Clausen, and Senior Minister Sean Newton, both of whom are returning from summer study leave and vacation. Welcome back. As well, we're joined today by pianist Adam Sakiyama, resident musician Gabrielle Burns, and Justice Krar, who is providing technical assistance for us today. Now, as we begin our service, I invite you to light a candle or chalice if you have one handy, and to join with us in our chalice lighting words. As we light our chalice, may its flame kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the glow of love, the fire of commitment, and the light of truth.
Good morning, and I call you to worship with these words from the Reverend Gretchen Haley. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often struck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes, and forwarded emails, as if the new zodiac capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way, as if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way that we had thought, as if we are not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mysteries of life, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none of it. Here in our silence and our stories and our sharing, we make space for a new possibility to take root. That is courage, forged in the fire of our coming together, and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still that a new world is possible and that we are creating it already here and now. From our many and varied paths, we arrive together to build up a community of commitment, hope, and love. Giving voice to our highest aspirations, I invite you now to join me in the words of our covenant. Love is our doctrine. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all.
I'm happy to bring you news from the life of this congregation. We're excited to share the news that Ade Adeyemi has joined First Unitarian as our new communications specialist. Ade will be working with staff and volunteers to improve our communications and implement our multi-year digital strategy. This work will help us facilitate stronger connections at First and extend our reach in the wider world. Welcome, Ade. As we return from our summer schedule, our weekly drop-in groups have returned. Everyone is welcome to attend these relaxed one-hour meetings on Zoom. On Tuesday mornings at 9:30, we find inspiration in the UU principles and sources. And on Thursday evenings, we reflect on a poem together. Both meetings include a short time of quiet meditation, as well as an opportunity to check in and get to know one another. Links can be found on the online services portion of our website. We very much appreciate your financial support, as well as your presence with us today and the ongoing contributions of our many volunteers. If you would like to make a financial donation, simply go to the orange donate button at the top right corner of the First Unitarian website. Also, a reminder that coming up on Sunday, September 5th, and every first Sunday of the month, there will be a newcomer information session, which offers more background on Unitarian history and the life of this congregation. This hour-long meeting after service will be of special interest to anyone who is new and anyone who is interested in membership. Thank you all for your presence here today and for being part of the life of the congregation.
Enter with me now into a time of quiet, a time of contemplation, meditation, and prayer, a time that begins with words followed by silence. Our meditation words come to us today from the American poet Danna Faulds. Sit here for a bit. Place yourself outside the frenzied pace of life. Slow down long enough to appreciate birds in flight, water drops like prisms in the grass, and countless shades of green. Step off the fast track and listen to the sound of breath and birdsong. Take a moment to just be, and in the being, know the whole of this creation, mystery and madness, passion and profanity. Sit still, and the thin line between sacred and profane simply fades away. There is nothing then to reconcile. All the disparate threads are woven on the loom of life. Sit here for a bit, and your unique place in the pattern becomes clear. Take the still point with you when it's time to walk away. Make the choice to see affinity, to watch the picture taking shape as thread joins thread. Dare to be the weaver and the loom, creator and creation, the sower and the sown. In a moment of stillness, all that came before is seen as one.
We turn now to honor the joys and the sorrows that we share, knowing that in so many sacred ways, what touches the life of one of us affects us all. This time of sharing is a spiritual practice, a time to truly take in another's joys or sorrows, to know ourselves connected as a community and capable of compassion for both stranger and friend. This is a time to practice the sacred art of empathy, that through bearing witness to our shared humanity, we all better understand what it truly means to be human. On this spinning blue ball of a world, there are countless causes for concern, moments that touch our hearts, and situations that call for our compassion. This morning, we hold in love and care those who are struggling in body, mind, or spirit, and all those who support them. And we lift up those enduring injustice in its many forms, as well as those living in harm's way in different corners of the earth. Thinking of those people and places we may be carrying in our hearts today, let us lift them up now in the chat or hold their names in silence. I'll do my best to give voice to as many as possible. Melissa Lobo is feeling great sorrow for the many ways people with great power and privilege and the dominant systems in our society perpetuate ableism. Ken McCarricker has let us know that he has moved to Kensington Gardens. He has had some health issues recently, especially with his vision, but he is now on the mend. You can send emails to him through his daughter, and you can reach out to me or to Lynn for that email address. Diane Strong is remembering Paul's sister who passed away unexpectedly. Our hearts go out to you all. Darlene Reed is asking us to think healing thoughts to support her husband, Murray, who begins 2 consecutive bouts of chemo and radiation directed to 2 different primary cancers. This will take him into the new year. May he be held in the wider web of love in this time. Ruth Tate is thinking of her mother, Janice, who's taking on the Chartwell administration's lack of true care and being slapped for her efforts. Joan is thinking of friends in Afghanistan who cannot get out. May these and other concerns be met with love and care and compassion today and in the days to come. And happily, there is also cause here for celebration, reasons for gratitude, and milestones of all kind to mark with joy and with thanks. I invite you to lift up now the joys and the gratitudes you would like to share today, and I will endeavor to give voice to as many of them as I can. Melissa Lobo shares that it was invigorating to attend a group drumming lesson in the park. We celebrate with Trudy Vural, who will, I believe, be marking her 98th birthday on Friday. And so we are all sending her our best wishes. A couple of other concerns have been lifted up. And so Nicole Johnson is thinking about her mom's community in Arizona that is now blocked in by floods on all sides after tremendous fires, and the land isn't absorbing the rain from the monsoons. It's quite a dire situation. So our thoughts were with her and with everyone there. And Ade is thinking of her husband who lost his mom unexpectedly 3 days ago, hoping that he finds strength in this difficult time. And Ade, we join you in that. So sorry for that loss for your family. Pivoting now to the joys, Catherine Kentridge is attending opera with her father and brother and sister in person in the UK, I will add. Ruth Tate lifts up gratitude for the beauty of Canadian wilderness, which she was privileged to enjoy last week in the Des Moines River region of Ottawa, in the Ottawa River, Valley River system. Joan B. is grateful for a real face-to-face visit with her daughter and grandkids, the first visit in almost 2 years. Indeed, much gratitude for those kinds of reunions. Simon is celebrating his 23rd birthday yesterday and had a fun time. And a very happy birthday to you, Simon. And we're so glad to have you here with us today. I invite you now to join me in a moment of meditation and prayer. Woven together in this interdependent life that we share, we carry a sacred hope that all shall be well, that all people may live in dignity and in peace. May we summon the strength to do our part to heal the hurts of our world. And may we live with courage and compassion, with gratitude and with joy, today and every day. Amen.
Offer now the words of the incredibly gifted Reverend Teresa Inez Soto from their meditation manual entitled Spilling the Light. The world makes many demands on your time, your skin, your heart, until you are left gasping and wondering if you will ever do enough, have enough, be enough. Stop your counting, measuring, and checking. You are enough. So much more than enough, made from fragments of the galaxy. You do measure up. And to recover from the doubt pressed upon you, the antidote for doubt is dreaming. All the dreams that call to you, lime green and frosting pink dreams, the other soft and tender dreams that run blue to gray sky, indistinguishable from lulling sea, the dreams that seem impossible. Listen, that's their nature. If they had already happened, then they would be realities, solid and smooth, like the round bone home of an unbroken egg. Be brave enough to name your dream, nurture it, and allow the rhythm of your breath to bring your dreams to life.
Thank you so much, Adam, for that beautiful interpretation of John Lennon's Imagine. Every act of creativity begins with imagination. And by creativity, I don't mean just artistic creativity, such as writing a song or painting a picture. I mean any kind of creating new relationship, whether it be starting a conversation between two people, writing an email or an essay or a sermon, planting a garden, managing a nonprofit, engaging in the work of social justice, or indeed bringing colors together on a canvas or melody and lyric into a relationship in song. Every act of creativity begins with imagination, with an act of dreaming or faith, or simply planning. Think about it. When you decided to join this Zoom meeting today, it came about because of some moment of hope or expectation, a moment of imagination that carried you forward, to click on a link to see if what you imagined might be found here. Perhaps it is, or perhaps you're finding something that is different than you imagined. There is always a gap between what we imagine or hope for and what we find. And I'll speak more about that in a moment. But right now, let's affirm and celebrate that spark of imagination, that point of possibility or potential or dream, as the poet and activist Teresa Soto put it. The spirit of life is carried upon the wings of imagination, inviting us into ever deeper relationship with life itself. Imagine that, the spirit of life, as simple and near to us as our imagination, ready to carry us into deeper meaning and purpose. Imagination carries us forward into life, and then we encounter a gap. The distance between what we imagine or hope for and what actually is. In the world today, this gap can seem like a chasm, and it can be very frightening for many of us. In his book, A Hidden Wholeness, The Journey Toward an Undivided Life, Quaker author and teacher Parker Palmer writes, "We live in a tragic gap, a gap between the way things are and the way we know they might be. It is a gap that never has been and never will be closed. If we want to live nonviolent lives, we must learn to stand in the tragic gap, faithfully holding the tension between reality and possibility." This tragic gap can be encountered on both a personal and a global scale, and in all forms of relationship and community. In every life, in whatever circumstances, we will find ourselves in situations not of our choosing, and we will have experiences that we find profoundly difficult, sometimes even unbearable. In order to live in that tragic gap, Parker Palmer invites us to practice the powers that open the heart, that open the mind, that invite the soul into being. It seems to me that one of these powers is that of imagination, the choice to ask with curiosity, what can be made of this situation? What can I make of this? What meaning can be found here? Depending on your theology, it could even be more explicitly spoken as a prayer. Spirit of life, what can be made of this? In the process of opening up to something new arising, something that integrates what we might wish for with what we actually have, we can create new meaning in our lives. We can open up new paths for loving and responsible action, no matter who we are and in what circumstances, no matter in what circumstances. In recent weeks, many of us watched the Olympics and witnessed the gymnast Simone Biles as she encountered her own gap between what she could imagine and what she could safely do. Like all accomplished athletes, she was well versed in the art of imagination as she visualized the complex airborne flips that she planned to achieve. But sensing new limitations in her body and imagining the potential for catastrophe that could take place, she made the bold and creative choice to step out of competition. It was a life-giving choice, not only for her, but for so many people who can benefit from imagining new pathways for self-care, and perhaps also new ways of living that are a little less driven and competitive. Over the summer, I was reminded of a Canadian painter whose vivid imagination allowed her to live through profoundly difficult circumstances while also bringing beauty and joy to others. Maud Lewis was born in Nova Scotia in 1903. She had physical disabilities from birth and later developed rheumatoid arthritis. Despite living in a tiny one-room house with her husband and unable to afford art materials, she used boat paints and house paints, particle board and cardboard, virtually any surface she could find in that tiny one-room shack, to create vivid pictures of the world around her, which she sold as greeting cards for pennies. Here's one example. On the one hand, the painting is clearly representational. We can see her efforts to accurately render a Nova Scotia cove. And yet, we can also sense a distance between what Maud Lewis may have imagined the painting might become and what she could do. There are a number of painters at First Unitarian, and I suspect most of us can relate to that challenge. Maud Lewis's imagination, though, allowed her to navigate that gap, and beautifully, with simple shapes and well-placed color. There's a famous saying, do what you can, where you are, with what you have. Well, it's clear that she knew how to do that. We can also see her imagination very clearly at work in the next painting, where the cows are almost identical, as are the trees, which are a decidedly dreamy shade of pink. I'm reminded of Teresa Soto's poem and its lime green and frosting pink dreams. This is a very simple painting in some ways, perhaps not technically sophisticated in some ways, and yet, to quote the poem again, it is enough, so much more than enough. And I couldn't resist including this one last Maud Lewis painting of 3 black cats. To me, this painting illustrates how the gap between imagination and reality can be bridged sometimes by humor and surprise, inviting in the spirit of life in a new and original way. Maud Lewis died in 1970 in Digby, Nova Scotia, and it was only toward the end of her life that her paintings sold for any more than a few dollars. Today, of course, they are very valuable collector's items, bringing immeasurable beauty and joy to the lives of others. Maud Lewis was someone who was able to use her imagination to create new meaning in a life that was very challenging. In her paintings, the gap between imagination and reality was filled with her own unique spirit in what one biographer called an illuminated life. Like any visual artist, she created relationship between color, shape, subject, and light. She also created relationship, I would say, between circumstances and meaning. She asked, what can I make of this? How can I do what I can, where I am, with what I have? Of course, the creative imagination need not lead to something as concrete as a painting. It might instead lead to something that helps us find our way through a difficult passage of life. Recently, a 5-year-old boy named Harvey Sutton became one of the youngest people ever to hike the entire Appalachian Trail, covering more than 2,100 miles in 209 days, with his parents, of course. They credit imagination as one of the things that got him through that trip. he was dreaming up plans as he walked along to make spaceships and houses and to host something called a lava party, whatever that might be. We can also think of the stargazers of ancient Greece or Babylon, people so long ago connecting the dots to create images out of their imagination to guide them and serve as signposts in the night. Wherever and whomever we are, each of us is working with very specific materials and making of them what we can. When we think of the events of our lives as if they were points on a map or stars in the sky, they might appear as a meaningless jumble. It's our ability to connect them meaningfully that matters. We can do that whenever we consider our lives in overview or when we look at any one situation or challenge. Can we imagine that something meaningful or even beautiful might be made of it? Can we imagine that even taking that attitude might make a profound difference in our lives, allowing us to actively shape life's meaning while at the same time receiving whatever life has to hand to us? Can we imagine being, in the words of the poet Dana Faulds, both the weaver and the loom, creator and creation, the sower and the sown? If this sounds daunting, as it often does for me, can we perhaps imagine the deep and grounded assurance that we are indeed enough, more than enough, made from fragments of the galaxy, and that the antidote to our doubt is dreaming? Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson is a modern day stargazer. He's also someone who reflects on the meaning of our singular lives within the vastness of the universe. He writes, "When you look for things in life like love, meaning, motivation, it implies that they are sitting behind a tree or under a rock. The most successful people in life recognize that in life, they create their own love. They manufacture their own meaning. They generate their own motivation." Now, there are times when I find statements like this unrealistic, even arrogant, especially from people who have considerable privilege. And yet, these words do guide me once again toward the creative imagination, the what can be made of this. What a brave and empowering question to put to ourselves in partnership with the spirit of life. Of course, it is one thing to imagine, to open up to the creative process, to engage in its unfolding. It's quite another to know how it will turn out. Many sermon writers have imagined or conjured up a certain certainty, which sometimes can be comforting. One example is the famous line from Martin Luther King Jr., "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Well, he was actually paraphrasing our Unitarian ancestor Theodore Parker, who wrote something that, to my mind, leaves a little more to the imagination. "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. And from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice." This, it seems to me, points to the way our imagination may guide us to create a world of greater harmony and love. To live in the gap between the world we hope for and the world as it is. To enter into it with creative imagination, never with absolute certainty, but with our intuition and our inner wisdom as our guide. In a new book called Art and Faith, A Theology of Making, The artist Makoto Fujimura puts it this way: in order to be effective messengers of hope, we must begin by trusting our inner voice, an inner intuition that speaks into the vast wastelands of our time. This process requires training our imagination to see beyond tribal norms, to see the vista of the wider pastures of culture. It is a part of our theological journey to see the importance of our creative intuition and trust that the Spirit is already at work there. Our creative intuition, this is the gap between what I would like to be saying. Our creative intuition, fused with the work of God or the Spirit of life, can become the deepest seat of knowledge out of which a new creation can flow. In the days to come, as we ask ourselves what we can make of this wounded world and our place in it, may we know that our imagination is our ally. May we do what we can, where we are, with what we have, inspired by so many others who are using their imaginations in the service of love and justice in their singular ways. As we do so, may we find our days illuminated by new meaning and purpose, joining with others and with life itself in deeper relationship each day. And now, may we joyfully receive the gift of creation, creative imagination, as it takes place in song. Here is our resident musician, Gabrielle Burns, with her interpretation of a song called Dusty Trails by Lucius.
Ooh. it's hard to get to taking the reins, and we'll all be okay. And we'll keep rolling on. Dusty trails can lead us to a golden road. I've been told. I can't remember who it was or all she spoke, but a penny for your thoughts could lead me home. Don't lose hope to fear, my friend, you're not alone. Dream the world you want to see, dream it till it's whole. Dream it till it's whole. Dream it till it's whole.
Thank you so very much, Gabby. And thank all of you for your presence here with us today. I leave you with words adapted from UU Minister Kathleen McTeague. May the light around us guide our journeys and hold us fast to the best and most righteous that we seek. May the darkness around us nurture our dreams and give us rest so that we may give ourselves to the work of our world. Let us seek to remember the wholeness of our lives, the weaving of light and shadow in the great and astonishing dance in which we move.
Thank you all for being with us today and making this community of memory and hope what it is this and every day. We invite you to return to be with us next week, and we encourage you to plan to stay a bit longer next Sunday, as we will provide after the service 2 short but significant updates about the congregation's plans for the fall, as well as a possible new home for First. Now, as our service comes to an end, we encourage you to extinguish your chalice candle if you haven't already. And we invite those of you joining us on Zoom to remain on if you wish to take part in some small, brief group conversations. Our guiding question for today's conversations is, how has imagination, dreaming, or planning led to meaning in your life? I'll put the question in the chat. Thanks again for being here today. Take good care, everyone.